but we'll go ahead and get started today. Thank you all so much for joining us for our webinar series. This session is on intake forms, why we think you'll love them, and why your new customers will end up finding some value as well. So if you don't know, we did recently launch our custom forms feature, and it's really especially successful when it's used and applied for the process of intake, bringing on a new customer, having them fill out information that you'd like to gather from them and hopefully use it to your advantage as you continue to work with them as a potential new client. So we're going to go ahead and jump in here. So just a little bit about what the intake form is and its purpose. Basically, our intake form is something that you can build to allow you to ask questions and collect answers and get this data from your new customers as they're signing up. So as they're signing up, they're entering information that you've requested them to fill out and possibly required them to fill out. So that is that's the basic goal of the intake form. And then Punchpass, we will store that data, get that information, and we provide a search option and filtering options for you to grab that customer data and see that customer data, access it easily, and then take that to new heights and use it in ways that we think may surprise you. We're definitely going to get into some of those opportunities shortly. And then the great thing is an opportunity for you to get really creative with it. So there are some default options that we're going to go over, but there's also a lot of custom options, give you the opportunity to really decide how you want this intake form to work, what kind of information would you like, and how would you like to ask it. So the value of an intake form, what's the benefit? Why would we want this? And by requiring information from your new clients, you're just going to be a lot more, you're more educated. You can make more targeted decisions around certain customers because of the information that they've provided you. So by asking them certain questions, by getting certain feedback from them right as they're signing up, you're able to potentially tailor their experience. So if you have a new customer and you've asked them questions like, what are your goals, or what are your fitness and health health goals or wellness goals as you are joining the studio? That's something that you can take and run with and say, okay, maybe I'm willing to contact them about certain opportunities, or maybe I'm going to let the instructor know so they know kind of how to start off that class, especially like welcoming that new customer in. It's also the potential for some marketing opportunities here. So by asking some pretty easy to add questions in your form and easy to answer questions, you might find out information about these clients and might see an opportunity to promote a particular pass or membership or a special event or series that you're running, directing them and also giving them potentially some recommendations. And then also allowing you to access that data and filter your customer list. We're going to show some videos and some demos of this, but you'll get a feel for the fact that once you have more information, being able to find the particular information of the particular customers who have provided certain answers is going to allow you to do a couple different things and maybe again give you a little bit more targeted approach to how you're dealing with your clients. So a couple just things to get out of the way and talking kind of the basics of our custom forms. This feature, custom forms, is only currently available on our Redwood plan. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the end, but I just wanted to make sure you had a heads up. So if you're not seeing this option in your current Punchpass account, that might be why. And another question sometimes we've gotten and we've been letting people know is about, how many forms can I have? How many can I work with? So there's a total of 3 forms that you're allowed to have published and live. You are allowed to have forms in draft, so you could work on different ones, if you need to, but there is a limit of 3 published forms, and you can only have one intake form. So what that means is that there's only one form available for like all your new clients signing up. And then if you would like to have some forms that you could provide to existing customers, those are other forms that you could add. So the general focus of today is on the intake form. It's probably the most powerful option here, but we did want to let you know that you can create a form and send that to an existing customer via a link. And that could be good for like a special event you're holding and you want to get certain information from customers. And then you could send that link to just those customers. So potential options, but the majority of our users and the majority of people who are invested in the form feature have been pretty clear about how the intake form works. So the way that new customers are going to access it is it will be their process for signing up with you. So we're going to see it in like just a couple minutes or maybe even less. And we're going to show you how it looks for the new customer signing up. They're not going to have to search for this. It's going to come right up. This is how they're going to sign up with you. And then, as I mentioned, if you have an existing form, how do you, or a form, I should say, for existing customers, for clients who already have an account with you, you can, each form has its own link and you can send that to customers and they can fill out your form. So because we're really excited about this and we think it's probably easiest to see like the end product to get an idea of what this is going to look like, I want to show you how it feels for the new customer signing up and what that might look like for them before we jump into the details of setting it up. When you have an intake form enabled in Punchpass, when new customers go to create an account with you, they're going to be brought to the intake form. So they're going to be prompted to fill out their information and they'll go through and set that up. Some of these questions are default and they're already built into Punchpass. You simply need to select them for your form. And some of these are custom fields that you can create. So you can set up yes, no's, date pickers, drop downs, lists, different things, open text fields. And you can basically set all of that up for your intake form. That's what your new customers are going to be prompted to fill out when they're signing up. And they'll read the success message that you also build for them. So once they're all set up, they can log in and go about the process. But now all of that data that they've had to fill out for the intake form is in your account. So that's what it looks like from the intake form as a customer signing up nice and new. That's how it's going to feel for them. So when we have a general sense of what it looks like, how it should work, let's talk a little bit about the components and how we can set this up. So the first thing when we're setting up the form is we're going to think about what things we'd like to collect, what questions we want to ask, what information do we need. And so that's going to lead us to our default fields and our custom fields. So starting out without having to create anything special, there are 16 different default fields that you get to simply select and add to your form. So this might be enough for you. You might look at this list and say, that's all the information I might need. And again, you don't have to ask all of these questions or get all of this data. You can select which ones you'd like to ask. So it's going to be a lot of some basic things: first name, last name, email, password, good for setting up an account. And then you might want to ask for things like their birthday, their phone, other contact information, like their address, an emergency contact name. The health status is a feature that we've had in Punchpass, and you can add that, as well as referral source and pronouns. So these are all features that if a customer goes into their profile themselves, they can enter a lot of that data, but here we can have it be part of the intake form. They enter that information as they're signing up. So you get to select from this list if you want to add these to your form. So you don't have to go about creating a custom field. These already exist. However, that's all great. And these are awesome fields. And this is super easy to just add these and go. So that might be good for you. But I really think that the custom fields option is a really great addition to your intake form. And we'll get into a lot of the whys and the hows, but it basically unlocks a different powerful tool of intake forms, which has to do with things like marketing and offering recommendations and empowering your instructors to know what's going on as someone comes into their class. So default fields are great. You're gonna see us add those to our form, but I really want to talk about how to add custom fields, as this is where the kind of building powerful customizable form comes into play. So let's take a look.
When we're setting up our custom forms in Punchpass, we may have some fields beyond the default fields that we'd like customers to fill out. So from the Manage Settings page, I'm going to scroll down and click on our custom forms and fields. And we will see here under custom fields, we have the option to set up a custom field. We are limited to 10. And then we can, but we can start adding them and enter any information we'd like. So for example, we'll click on New Custom Field, and we can set up our question and what we'd like to say about our field here, what data we'd like to collect. So for this example, we're going to do tracking COVID vaccine. So here we might want to say, what was the date of your most recent COVID vaccine? And under data type, so here we have, well, first we have our larger description of what we want to use this field for. So you could add more information if you'd like to give more background, but also we do want to select the data type. We have a number of different data types here. First is numeric, so they can only enter numbers, yes or no, selecting between yes or no. Text is an open text field, they can enter what they'd like. We have the date, so they can have the calendar date picker. Time, so entering a time, and then list, which is going to be getting into our catalogs feature, which will be another video. But for this option, we're selecting date, and we'll go ahead and create our custom field. So now we have a custom field. We can always click on it to edit it if we want to add more information. I'll go ahead and save changes. Now, another example of a custom field, we might want to have a text field. So here we have the option to, again, enter information about the data we'd like to collect. As an example, what are your fitness goals or health and wellness goals you'd like to achieve by attending our studio? So this is something where we'd like to learn more about them, data we'd like to have about their interest in our studio, what they're looking to accomplish. And we're going to set this to text. So it'll be an open text field that they can enter information for. Go ahead and create that. And we'll do one more example here in sort of our basic custom field options. I'll click New Custom Field. And let's say perhaps we would like to find out if they're interested in being on our mailing list. Some people would not like to receive marketing emails. So this will be an easy way to set that up. Would you like to be added to our mailing list? Something along those lines. And in this example, we would select yes, no for data type, so that when they're answering this question, they'll be selecting either yes or no. And that will help us with data and information about our customers moving forward.
So that's how we add some of the bulk of the customization, right? We're adding specific options and questions that we'd like people to fill out and answer for us. So we start by creating those. We'll get to adding them to the form shortly, but there's another example of a custom field that I want to get into, which is the list option. And this takes us to catalogs. So this is the term we're using. Basically, it's a catalog or a list of options that we're going to be offering. So for instance, if you'd like them to select from a list that you've created, you're going to need to set up all of the options first. So we're going to set up the options, and then we can create the custom field asking for them to pick one of those options. So you'll see as we get into it in the video, but it's up at the top of that page under Manage Catalogs. And basically it's all about setting up your list of options and then creating the custom field so people can select from that. So I think, again, always feels good to see it in action. We're going to check out another video of creating a catalog and then creating the custom field to go along with it.
We may find in the course of setting up our custom fields that we actually want to have our customers select an option from a list. So we want them to choose an answer to a question or entering the data that's already pre-filled out, and they just have to select their option. So in order to do that, we're going to need to add a catalog. So we'll go ahead and click on Manage Catalogs, and this is where we get to add the options for the list. So we're going to click Add New Custom Field Catalog, and here we'll call this one referral sources. So how do people hear about us? How do they find out about us? So that could be a lot of different options. Maybe we're tracking and trying to get an idea about how people find out and how people come to our studio. So here we have comma separated values. So we can enter any of the different fields we'd like to add to the list, separating them by commas. So we can add different ways that people might have heard about us. And however we want, them to fill out that information, whatever things we'd like to consider in that list. And then we'll go ahead and click Create Custom Catalog. And here we can see there's the catalog. Here are the different options within it. We can always click on that to edit, change these. And then we'll go back to our custom fields and forms and set up a new custom field using that list. So here, this is all about the referral source. How did you hear about us? And then from the data type, we'll go ahead and select list. And this is where the catalog options come up, and we have our referral source catalog, which is going to be pulled for the list to answer this question. So we'll go ahead and click Create Custom Field. And now we have our list option based on the catalog we've created.
So I really like this option, especially this example, because if you're ever trying out a new way to promote the studio, or you're tracking, referrals, maybe you just want a list of like your instructor names, and then, maybe you offer your instructors some kind of special discount if they were the referral, or, if you're running a special ad or promotion, you can kind of add that to the list and see how it does, because you'll be able to see how many of your students, when they're signing up, are saying, oh, this is how I actually found out about you. Maybe kind of determine if it was a good investment or decision to put your time in on that particular way to promote your studio. So it's kind of an example of how you could use that data to help determine some of your marketing efforts or evaluate them. So we've done the catalog, we've created all these different custom questions. Now we're going to get into actually making the form. So this is going to go through how we add default fields to the form, how we add the custom fields to the form, and then taking a look at the form that we've built so we can kind of see it in action. Get into it here.
Once we've set up all the custom fields we'd like to have for our form, we can scroll down and set up New Custom Form. So there are two different types of forms we can create. One is the new customer onboarding or intake form. Another one is an existing customer data capture. So we're going to select New Customer Onboarding and then Next to set up this intake form. So we could add our own title for this. We could also just call it an intake form, however you'd like to describe it. And then you can set up a special code for it or leave this as is. And then if you'd like to add any description or information about this form to let customers know a little bit more about why you're asking these questions. But for an intake form, it's pretty self-explanatory. Now you do have the option to create a custom success message. So we might want to do, thanks so much for signing up. Or we could add any information, perhaps a link, anything we'd like to add to let them know what to do next, perhaps, after they fill out the form. And then we're going to scroll down and we're going to get into the fields for our form. So there are two different sources for our fields. So the customer source is our default fields. So things like getting their first and last name, email address, health status, referral source, all that information. So for example, we might want to pull first name, and we may want to make that required. We'll go ahead and add that to the field. So we can go through and add some of our most essential information that we'd like them to enter as they're signing up. Maybe we would like to get a little bit more information as we're going through, perhaps grabbing their birth date. And again, we can select if these are going to be required or not. Perhaps we would like and health status, some of the more basic fields available. We can also add, though, from our custom fields. So for example, we might select a custom field, and all of the custom fields that we've set up are available. So perhaps we're going to start with information about the vaccine. We'll go ahead and add that field. And you'll notice it's highlighted as a custom field. And we can go ahead and add information, and again, we can decide whether it's required or not. And we're just adding to our form here. And depending on how we'd like to ask these questions, we can set all that up. And here we go. So now we have our custom form built, kind of the basic data as well as our custom fields we'd like to ask. And then here we have the option, we can set this up as a draft. So if we're still working on it or we want to go back and add another custom field before we finish the form, we can save it as a draft. We can also publish it, and that will make this intake form live. So as new customers are signing up, they will be prompted to fill out this form. We'll go ahead and click publish. And if we'd like to take a look at that from the customer view, we can go ahead and copy our URL. And here's our intake form. So you'll notice the different fields that we have to fill out, date picker, text option, and then here we have some list options. So if we're using the catalog, that'll show up as a list, and or a yes, no, here we go again, show up as a list, and people can enter the information that they need. You can enter text fields here. So, people can enter their information, submit it, and if they haven't filled out certain information that's required, they'll be prompted to do that. But that's how we'll set up our intake form.
So as kind of a general process, the way that I sort of recommend setting up your intake form is really how we've walked through it today. If you have any custom fields, then that's something that you'd want to do before setting up your form. You kind of have that ready to go. You can just simply add it to the form. Same with catalogs, set up the catalog, create the custom field so it's ready to go for your form. If you're just looking to do default fields, then certainly you can just start creating your form. You could also create your form, save it as a draft when you realize, oh, I might actually want to ask another question, save it as a draft. Or you could also publish it and edit it later as well, so that, if you have more ideas or more things you'd like to ask, you have that capability. So once you have set up your intake form and people are signing up and they're entering their information, I did want to go over where that information is stored, as well as like how you can go about searching for that information, in the customer search, because it could be really helpful for just being able to see what people are putting in, but it could also be, helpful for you to take next steps with it, depending on what you're looking for and what information you've requested. So I'm going to walk through that via video as well, and hopefully it gives you an idea of how you might be able to leverage this in your own studio, in your own business.
Now that we have our intake form up and running, it's published, then customers are going to be adding themselves to the system and entering the information in the fields we've requested. So we can see that information under our customers list. We can click into a customer and into their info tab. We'll see the information they've entered, as well as the custom fields they've responded to. So we can see that on an individual basis. We can also go to our customers page and click into the custom fields search. So the custom field search, one, displays our customers, and we can see that data as we scroll through. We can also search for information for an available field. So for example, we might want to pull up everyone who would like to be in our mailing list. So would you like to be added to our mailing list is equal to yes. We will apply the filters. And here we have everyone who signed up for the mailing list. We can select them. We can set to email them. So it's like an example of how you might use that data to target your particular customers. We could also add an additional field. So if we'd like to search for more than one thing, for example, maybe we'd like everyone who heard about us via an instructor. And we can also adjust the sort order if we'd like. So that's an option too, but we'll go ahead and click apply filters. And here we have mailing list and heard about us from an instructor. So there's a lot of different examples of how we could use this depending on what kind of information we're requesting, what information we'd like to know. But this allows us to search for certain responses and also reset the filters and see everybody who responded and signed up.
So this is for a demo account, so there's not as much data as you will probably be gathering, which is going to make the search a lot better and more useful as you keep going through it. And then, of course, it also depends on some of the questions you ask and what exactly you're looking to do. So I have spoken to a few people, and we've seen a few of our users already up and running with intake forms, or have written in about some things that they suggest and they think are really great ways to use the form in some business savvy and creative ways. So I wanted to first of all thank True You Yoga, Grow Vermont, and Skill Samurai for a lot of the inspiration for some of these custom questions. But again, we'll kind of get a look and see what other people are doing to sort of use these tools. So one of the things that we've seen a couple of users do is set up onboarding and make it tailored for potentially family accounts. So if they're signing up children, if you're offering kids classes, then getting their name or their birth date, so their age range, is great, because then and as we could see with the filtering, you could filter for dates of birth within certain ranges, and then you could say, okay, these people might be appropriate for this age range of classes. We should let them know about those classes. So that's like an example of how you might use just gathering that information and then also filtering for it to make it work for you. This one is from True Yoga. They said this is something that they always like to ask because the health status, or asking about like any injuries, usually people don't think to talk about allergies, and especially like skin sensitivities to things like scents and or cleaning products could actually be really helpful to know for your studio if people are coming in, and if you often have any kind of special scents? Are you clean with certain products? It might be good to know and make sure that, you might want to make a switch if someone comes in, you've got new people, and the stuff that you're cleaning your yoga mats with might not be good for them, or you might want to let them know so they bring their own. So just a kind of way to be just more knowledgeable about what's going on with your customers, and taking that into account as you run your business. This one's great from Susan at Grow Vermont, does a lot of prenatal yoga. And so, learning about the pregnancy due date was super helpful, because they run series of, kind of for people around the same due date. So this is really good information for her to grab about her new customers, because this will let her know, oh, okay, this is great. This is your due date. So these options might be good for you. So being able to take that information, make recommendations, and learn more about their student in the process. And then she also likes to ask kind of a nice open-ended question about, how can we help you? I love this, because a lot of the questions that you might ask in a form kind of they're sort of just data driven, like, oh, like, what date is this? And what's your name? Fill that out. And adding a little bit more of a human touch and saying, like, what are your reasons for joining? We'd love to be able to, learn more about you and hear from you, and really focus on the fact that there's a human on the other side of the screen, and that they are, entering information about themselves. They're on their own path, and you're joining it for a while. And, hopefully they'll be joining you for a long time. So, making them feel welcome, and that you care about what their interests are, and what their goals are, can be really great. So, and that can so help future communications with this new customer. Okay, but going the other route, well, similarly, talking about being human and recognizing that we're human, this also could be an opportunity to kind of show your vibe and the flavor of your studio. So this is another one from Stephanie at True Yoga, who said, we like to ask like a silly question. Maybe we'll change it out every once in a while and have people, ninjas versus pirates, who would win? Or are you a Star Wars fan? Or are you a Star Trek fan? Kind of get some little fun facts, and just kind of make it feel a little less uptight about the information you're gathering. Again, can be kind of a fun thing. It absolutely depends on you and your studio and your offerings, and how you want to get, what kind of vibe are you trying to get across. But I love the fact that not only can this be like a great way to gather information for marketing purposes, or for just, giving them the best class they could want, but also a great way to kind of let them know who you are and what you're about as they're signing up. So I think that's really fun. And also a great thing, and kind of keeping with talking to Punchpass users. Recently, you may know that our Punchpass team had a summit in Burlington, Vermont. And we actually met up with Susan from Grow Vermont to talk about a lot of different things about, how she's using the system, and what her recommendations are, because she was an early adopter of our form feature. And the biggest thing that really Susan kind of mentioned to us is that she's using the data from the forms to really follow up with these new clients. There's a report and a notice on your homepage every time you see like how many new students have signed up this week. So you can always check in on that and see, okay, someone new signed up. Let's take a look at what information they gave us, because that could also guide our intuition. So if they've identified what they're interested in and their goals, we can then make, so again, like targeted recommendations. We can just let them know we read it and we heard them, and we know what they're interested in, and we're going to make educated suggestions, and we understand where they're coming from. So we're not just sort of giving them something generic. It's going to be a much more personal message if you reach out. And then, of course, the recommendations opportunity here. Once you have a little information about your new clients before they walk in the door, you can give them an idea. If someone says they're really, interested in and working on, strength building. Well, you might have like a conditioning class that would be perfect for them. Or maybe you're offering a workshop in a few months and just like, hey, this sounds like it'd be really, really up your alley and kind of in what you're looking to do. And it's a more personal recommendation as opposed to just a mass email to let people know about what's going on. You can use this information to identify particular clients that might be good for something. And just again, have that nice personal touch, which is something Susan really highlighted and something we definitely, we love to see at Punchpass. We think it's really important to feel like, humans, especially if you're doing a lot of things online and with your screen in between you, before anyone shows up at your studio, you can still have a little bit more of a friendly approach. And that's a great way to consider using these forms. So I know that this feature is not, maybe not available on the current plan that you have, or maybe you aren't using Punchpass yet and you would like to check it out, maybe before you're officially ready to sign up for it, or you're not sure which plan would be right for you and kind of want to test out the intake forms on your own. You are absolutely welcome to do that, and we would love to help you do that. So if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to us, the support team, and let us know, because we're more than happy to help make the switch, give you some time to check it out before you buy or before you switch plans. So reach out to us in the chat. You can just let us know, you're in the webinar and you'd like to, take us up on the Redwood trial. You can also email us at support@punchpass.com and we can take care of you from there. But if this is something you're interested in checking it out and seeing how it might work for you, or you want to play around and see like, oh, could I create what I think I want? How does that look? How does it work? Before you maybe make your decision about making an upgrade, then we'd love to help you out with that. Make sure it's a good fit. So with that being said, do we have any questions? If you don't mind, if you have questions, please feel free to add them to the chat. More than happy to answer anything that's come up in the course of our webinar, or if there's anything else around forms that you would like to talk about. While we're waiting, I did have a question come up prior to the webinar, and someone who couldn't be here, so I'm going to address it now. So their question was about waivers. So in Punchpass, you also have a waiver feature on some of our plans, and on those plans, you may require your customers to sign off on your waiver before they can book a class. And they were asking if that's involved with the intake form or tied to the intake form, and the answer is no. These are separate features. For the intake form, people are going to be signing up an account and they're going to enter their information there. And then if you do require a waiver to be signed, then customers are going to be prompted to sign the waiver as they sign up for a class. So they are separate features, but they are both kind of working in tandem to get what you need from your customer before they actually show up. And hopefully the combination will be nice for you. But we'll give it another minute or two in case anyone has any questions. And as always, if you do have questions afterwards, or if you're watching this recording and you have a follow-up or are unsure about something, again, please reach out to us in the chat. It's in the bottom right hand of your home screen if you're logged into Punchpass, or you can find it on our public pages. You can also email us again, support@punchpass.com, and we'll be happy to talk about the forms with you. Happy to talk about any of our plans or anything you want to talk Punchpass. We're happy to do it. So I just want to thank you all so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed the information we had to share today about intake forms and about how the fields work. So maybe you could see it working in your business. If so, definitely feel free to reach out to us. Again, if you'd like to check out the trial, we'd be more than happy to get that set up for you. And hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you again soon.